Welcome back, ScareTale listeners, to another spine-chilling tale to haunt your dreams. Tonight, we step into a house where the walls don't just watch, they remember. Every whisper, every scream, every sin. This is Rooms That Remember, a story of secrets, guilt, and the inescapable weight of the past. Light a candle, lock your doors, and let's begin. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, sealed with wax, and addressed in a spidery script that made Clara's skin crawl. It was from a solicitor she'd never heard of, informing her that her great-aunt Evelyn had passed and left her a house in Blackthorn Hollow, a remote village nestled in the foggy moors of northern England. Clara, a 32-year-old graphic designer scraping by in a cramped Leeds flat, hadn't seen Evelyn since she was a child. The memories were hazy. A stern woman with eyes like chipped flint, a house that smelled of damp wood and secrets. Clara's first instinct was to sell the place. She didn't need a crumbling relic tying her to a past she barely remembered. But the solicitor's letter was oddly insistent. You must visit Blackthorn House before deciding its fate. It is particular about its owners. Curiosity, or perhaps desperation for a change, nudged her to pack a bag and drive north. The moors stretched endlessly under bruised sky as Clara's car rattled along a single-track road. Blackthorn Hollow was a speck of a village grey stone cottages, a pub with a crooked sign, and a churchyard where the gravestones leaned like drunken sentinels. The locals avoided her gaze as she asked for directions, muttering about the old house on the hill. One woman, her face creased like old leather, grabbed Clara's wrist and hissed, "Don't stay too long." "It knows you." Blackthorn House loomed at the edge of the village, a gothic sprawl of turrets and ivy-choked walls. Its windows were dark, like eyes that refused to blink. Blackthorn House loomed at the edge of the village, a gothic sprawl of turrets and ivy-choked walls. Its windows were dark, like eyes that refused to blink. The air grew colder as Clara approached, her breath misting despite the mild autumn day. The front door, heavy oak carved with thorny vines, creaked open before she could touch the knocker. Inside, the house was frozen in time. Dust motes danced in slants of light filtering through cracked stained glass windows. The air smelled of mildew and something sharper like rusted iron. A grand staircase spiraled upward, its banister polished to a sheen that suggested someone or something still cared for it. Clara's footsteps echoed unnaturally loud on the parquet floor, as if the house were amplifying her presence. She called out, "Hello!" Her voice bounced back, distorted, like a chorus of whispers. Shaking off a shiver, she explored the ground floor. A parlor with velvet drapes, a dining room with a table set for a meal never served, a kitchen where the knives gleamed too brightly. Every room felt aware, as if the walls were holding their breath. Clara decided to stay the night, reasoning she could assess the house's value in the morning. Upstairs, she found a bedroom with a four-poster bed draped in crimson curtains. A portrait hung above the fireplace, a severe woman in black, her eyes following Clara's every move. The brass plate beneath read, "Evelyn Harrow, 1963, her great-aunt, younger but unmistakable." As Clara unpacked, she found a leather-bound journal tucked in a drawer. Its pages were brittle, filled with Evelyn's tight handwriting. The entries began innocently, descriptions of the house, the village, the moors, but as Clara read on, the tone shifted. Evelyn wrote of the rooms waking up, of shadows that moved without light, of voices that spoke her name when she was alone. One entry chilled Clara to the bone. The air smelled of mildew and something sharper like rusted iron. A grand staircase spiraled upward, its banister polished to a sheen that suggested someone or something still cared for it. Clara's footsteps echoed unnaturally loud on the parquet floor, as if the house were amplifying her presence. She called out, "Hello!" Her voice bounced back, distorted, like a chorus of whispers. Shaking off a shiver, she explored the ground floor. A parlor with velvet drapes, a dining room with a table set for a meal never served, a kitchen where the knives gleamed too brightly. Every room felt Where, as if the walls were holding their breath, Clara decided to stay the night, reasoning she could assess the house's value in the morning. Upstairs, she found a bedroom with a four-poster bed draped in crimson curtains. A portrait hung above the fireplace, a severe woman in black, her eyes following Clara's every move. The brass plate beneath read, Evelyn Harrow, 1963, her great-aunt, younger but unmistakable. The house remembers everything, every word, every deed. It keeps them like treasures, and it waits. I thought I could hide what I did, but the walls won't let me forget. Clara snapped the journal shut, her heart pounding. She told herself it was the ramblings of a lonely old woman. But as she climbed into bed, the house seemed to settle around her, creaking like a ship at sea. She drifted into an uneasy sleep, dreaming of hands pressing against the walls, trying to claw their way out. A sound woke her at 3 a.m., a low, rhythmic tapping, like fingernails on wood. It came from the wall behind the headboard. Clara held her breath, listening. Tap, tap, tap. Then a whisper, faint but unmistakable. Clara. She bolted upright, fumbling for the lamp. The room was empty, the portrait's eyes glinting in the moonlight. The tapping stopped, but the air felt heavy, as if someone had just left. Clara didn't sleep again that night. The next morning, Clara resolved to explore every inch of Blackthorn House. She needed to understand what she was dealing with before she could sell it. The house had 3 floors and a basement, with countless rooms that seemed to shift in number each time she counted. Hallways stretched longer than they should. Doors appeared where none had been before. In a dusty library, she found books with titles like The Architecture of Memory and Rituals of Binding. One book, its cover stained with something dark, detailed the history of Blackthorn House. Built in 1789 by a reclusive architect named Silas Harrow, Clara's ancestor, was designed as a vessel for memory. The book claimed the house was constructed with materials from sacred sites, imbued with rituals to trap the essence of its inhabitants. The walls hold what the heart forgets. It read. The air grew colder as Clara approached, her breath misting despite the mild autumn day. The front door, heavy oak carved with thorny vines, creaked open before she could touch the knocker. Inside, the house was frozen in time. Dust motes danced in slants of light filtering through cracked stained glass windows. Clara laughed nervously, dismissing it as folklore. But as she moved through the house, the rooms began to respond. In a nursery with faded wallpaper, she heard a child's laughter, though the crib was empty and coated in cobwebs. In a study, the typewriter clacked out a single word, guilty. In the ballroom, mirrors reflected not her face, but glimpses of others' pale figures in old-fashioned clothes, their eyes pleading or accusing. By evening, Clara was rattled but determined to stay rational. She set up her phone to record audio overnight, hoping to capture evidence of the noises or prove they were just her imagination. As she slept, the house grew bolder. The recording later revealed hours of whispers, footsteps, and a voice that wasn't hers repeating, "You can't leave what you've done." On the 3rd day, Clara found the locked door in the basement, its frame etched with symbols that made her head ache to look at. The key was in Evelyn's journal, hidden in a false compartment. The door opened to a stone chamber, its walls slick with moisture and carved with names, hundreds of them, some scratched out, others glowing faintly, as if lit from within. At the center was a well, its depths black and endless. As Clara unpacked, she found a leather-bound journal tucked in a drawer. Its pages were brittle, filled with Evelyn's tight handwriting. The entries began innocently, descriptions of the house, the village, the moors, but as Clara read on, the tone shifted. Evelyn wrote of the rooms waking up, of shadows that moved without light, of voices that spoke her name when she was alone. One entry chilled Clara to the bone. As Clara approached, the air grew thick, and the walls pulsed like a heartbeat. She saw flashes, memories that weren't hers. A man begging for mercy as a knife gleamed. A woman burying something in the garden under moonlight. A child locked in a room, screaming until her voice gave out. These weren't just images. They were sensations, fear, rage, guilt flooding Clara's mind. She stumbled back, realizing the house wasn't just remembering its past, it was showing her hers. Moments she'd buried, the time she'd cheated on an exam and let a classmate take the blame, the cruel words she'd hurled at her mother during their last fight before she died, the hit and run she'd never reported, convincing herself the car she'd clipped was fine. The house knew, it always knew. That night, the tapping returned, louder, joined by scratches and moans. Clara barricaded herself in the bedroom, but the walls themselves seemed to close in. Shadows moved in the corners, forming shapes, hands, faces, eyes. The portrait of Evelyn now smirked, her painted lips curling as if she'd been waiting for this. Desperate, Clara called the solicitor, demanding answers. His voice was grave over the phone. Blackthorn House chooses its keepers. It feeds on their secrets, their guilt. You can't sell it until it's done with you. When she pressed him, he admitted Evelyn had tried to burn the house down years ago, only for the flames to die out unnaturally. She thought she could escape, he said, but the house always calls someone back. Clara decided to flee. She packed her bag, ignoring the whispers now echoing opally through the halls. Stay. Confess, remember. As she reached the front door, it slammed shut, the lock jamming. The air grew suffocating, and the house shook as if angry. Windows shattered inward, glass skittering across the floor. The walls bled dark, viscous liquid seeping from cracks, pooling at her feet. In a panic, Clara ran to the basement, thinking the well might be the key. If the house was a vessel, maybe destroying its heart would free her. She lit a match, intending to burn the journal and anything else she could find. But as the flame touched the pages, the walls screamed a sound like 1,000 voices in agony. The well erupted, shadows pouring out, wrapping around her like cold hands. Clara's vision blurred, and she was no longer in the basement. She was in her past, reliving every mistake, every lie, every hurt she'd caused. The faces of those she'd wronged stared back, their eyes hollow. She tried to scream, but her voice was swallowed by the house's endless hunger. When Clara woke, she was in the bedroom, the journal open beside her. The house was silent, but the air felt different, sated, like a beast after a meal. She tried to leave again, and this time, the door opened. But as she stepped outside, she felt a tug, like a thread tying her to the house. She drove back to Leeds, but Blackthorn House followed her. In her dreams, in reflections, in the creak of her apartment floor. It wasn't done with her. Months later, Clara returned. She couldn't explain why, only that she had to. The house welcomed her, its doors swinging wide. She began writing in the journal, adding her own secrets to its pages. The walls whispered her name, not in anger but in recognition. She was its keeper now, bound to its memories and her own. The villagers of Blackthorn Hollow say the house is quiet these days, but they avoid it still. Sometimes, at night, lights flicker in its windows, and a woman's silhouette moves from room to room, as if searching for something she never find. And there we leave Blackthorn House, waiting for its next keeper. What secrets do you carry, listeners? What would the walls of your life remember? If you enjoyed Rooms That Remember, hit that like button, subscribe to ScareTale, and share your own creepy stories in the comments. Until next time, sleep tight, if you dare.